David Copperfield is a great book for Charles Dickens.
David Copperfield lived cheerfully with his mother and a servant, Peggotty, because his father died. The cheerful finished when a cruel man, Mr. Murdstone, got married with his mother, and his sister, Miss Murdstone, went to live with them. David and Peggotty went on holiday with the Peggotty's family, and he fell in love with Emily, the Ham's cousin, and Ham was the brother's nephew of Peggotty.
Mr. Murdstone gave to David lessons, and if David didn't know the answer because Mr. Murdstone asked difficult questions, he must punish David. Finally, Mr. and Miss Murdstone sent him to a horrible school near London. He made two friends, Traddles and Stephen, his protector too. His mother has a new baby, but both died. Peggotty got married with Mr. Barkins, and she left David with the Murdstones. David left the school and learned to be independent in London. In London, David worked in a lace factory. It was very hard for a child of 10 years old. He lived with Mr. and Mrs. Micawber and their children, but Mr. Micawber always owed money to shopkeepers, and he went to prison. So David ran towards Dover, where lived his father's aunt, Betsy Trotwood, who hated the boys. She lived with Mr. Dick, a good man. He remained with them because Aunt Betsy thought that the Murdstones were bad with him. David enjoyed living with Aunt Betsy and Mr. Dick, but a day she wanted him to continue his education. He went to live with Mr. Wickfield, his daughter Agnes, and his clerk Uriah, because they lived near on the school in Canterbury. He was happy. He loved Mr. Wickfield and Agnes, but hated Uriah, who started to have a strange power over Mr. Wickfield. When he left the school because he was a young man, he went to Yarmouth a season with Sternford. In Yarmouth, they knew that Ham and little Emily were engaged. They were in Yarmouth for 2 weeks, where Sternford bought a boat that he called the Little Emily, which he gave to Mr. Peggotty. Then, in London, his aunt took him to Doctors' Commons, an area where lawyers had their office. He worked and learned for Mr. Spinello, an important lawyer. A day, Agnes went to London, and she told him that his father was afraid of Uriah Heep, who was making him his partner in the law office. Uriah had the power. A day, Mr. Spinello introduced him to his daughter, Dora, and he fell in love. David thought of Dora all the time. He visited Traddles, who knew Mr. and Miss Micawber. Mr. Micawber hadn't money. Sternford visited him, and he told him that Mr. Barkis was very ill, so he traveled to Yarmouth. Mr. Barkis died. Ham was terrible because little Emily was far away with Sterford. Mr. Peggotty wasn't angry her, but he destroyed the boat, the little Emily, and he went to look her. Mr. Spenlow invites David to a picnic to celebrate Dora's birthday, where he knew that Mr. Murdstone was marrying a rich young woman. Dora and David became secretly engaged. A day, his aunt went to see David with Mr. Dick and told that she must live with him because she hadn't more money. David worked hard to make more money. Mr. Spenlow knew the love of David and Dora and said him that he must never see Dora again. But that evening, Mr. Spenlow died and Dora went to live with two aunts. Uriah Heep and his mother had the power for Mr. Wickfield and Agnes. David went to Canterbury to stay with them. There, Mr. Micawber was the clerk. Uriah wanted to be the husband of Agnes, but Mr. Wickfield didn't want. David wrote to Dora's aunt, and he visited her regularly. Dr. Strong was the old teacher for David. He had a young wife, Annie, a friend of Agnes. There was a lot of gossip about Annie that said that Annie really loved her cousin Jack, a lazy young man. Uriah said to Doctor this gossip, but Annie really loved her husband, and she said him. David hit Uriah because wanted to separate Agnes and Mr. Strong because he said that she was dangerous to his plans. Dora and David married and they moved to their small house. He helped Dr. Strong and wrote stories. Mr. Stirford sent for David. Rosa Dartle brought Litimer, Stirford's personal servant, to talk to him that Stirford was in Spain, but Emily wasn't with him. Emily was in London, and Mr. Peggotty went to see her. Mr. Micawber wrote a letter when he still worked as a clerk for Uriah Heep, which said that he organized a meeting in London with he and Travelers. There he said them that Uriah was a devil, a hypocrite, a serpent, a dishonest man, and a liar. He had bad plans. Finally, Uriah gave back all the money that he owed. It was the end of Uriah's power. Agnes and her father were happy again, and the family Micawber started a new life in Australia. Dora was ill, and she died. David went to Yarmouth and saw Peggotty and to give him a letter from Emily. In a terrible storm, Sterful was there and died, and Ham also died. Finally, David got married with Agnes, who had always loved him.